Hello, everyone. Welcome to King Build. Hopefully, this is a rather cozy stream. I just finished with a 3 hour stream over on Academic Agents channel where we talked about the PayPal mafia, the Silicon Valley technocratic phenomenon that we've been tracking over here, along with Project 2025, Tony Blair, and other assorted things. Kind of dug into the actual nature of liberalism, this paradoxical combination of being both rhetorically anti-imperial and then practically inevitably imperial, and this sort of tension that exists between these two weird paradoxical polarities of liberalism. Anyways, figured I'd come on here. We hadn't done a stream in a little while, and I wanted to come on here and chat with you guys a little bit, kind of talk about some of the thoughts I had from the interview and get some of your guys' thoughts. We're going to open up the panel here in a little while. And if you are a subscriber to the King Pill Discord, if you're a member of the King Pill Discord, which the subscribe star is now has gone private. If you want to get into the King Pill Discord from now on, you can go to linktree.com/kingpilled and then just pick the join the King Pill Discord option, and that'll take you there. We spent the last couple of days completely overhauling the Discord, added a bunch of new channels, and kind of divided up the conversation a little bit. We've gotten a bunch of people in there lately, and the conversation's been popping. All hours of the day, there's people in there talking at this point. So we'd love to have you in there. We've got some fun plans now that we've got everything switched over. We've got some fun plans for some projects that we're going to work on there. So we'd love for you to join us. If you are there, if you're part of the King tier, then we're going to drop the link there for you to hop on the chat here in a little while. Jason from the 2-Bit Podcast is going to be getting on here shortly. He's got to get the wife and kid off to daycare. It's very weird to think about that, given that it is 8 p.m. here, but it's morning over there in the Down Under. So Jason will be hopping on here. We'll have a little chat, and then I'll drop the link in the Peanut Gallery channel in the King Pill Discord. If you're in the Discord right now, you should have access to it. Everyone got grandfathered into the King tier. So you guys can hop on. If you have any questions or any other subjects you want to talk about, then we're happy to do that. It was funny, last time I did a big, long show like this, I left and immediately went and hopped on the voice chat in the Discord and talked in there for a little while, and people were laughing at me for seeing... I get exhausted from doing a whole bunch of talking, and so the way that I decompress is go and do a whole bunch more talking. I don't really know why, but it's a thing. So thank you guys for waiting. Sorry for being a little bit late, but I appreciate you in here. We got 29 watching, 31 watching, and 7 likes. So do me a favor and hit that like button. Pay us in YouTube currency, the currency of the algorithm. So yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation with Academic Agent. It was an honor to hop on there and discuss such things with him. It's very interesting to get the British perspective on some of these things. This is one thing I think I need to understand better is the history of Britain. I started listening just right now while I was out walking the dog. I started listening to the podcast we mentioned at the end of the show. It's the Gold Goats and Guns podcast, Tom Luongo's show. Episode number 171 from March 3rd, where he talked with Richard Poe and Why All Roads Lead to London. I listened to everything on 2x, so I got to about half an hour into the conversation, and he's talking about Marx's connections to British intelligence and Britain's old school feud with Russia that's gone back centuries, and the the implications of that. This is something that is starting to come into clearer view for me. So I'm still kind of formulating some of my thoughts on this, but I think one of the dynamics that seems to be happening is as we're moving more and more into this, what people are terming the multipolar world, we're seeing a retrenchment of American interests back into America, trying like a reassertion of American sovereignty. And some of the work that Tom Luongo and Phil Gibson, shout out Mr. Sue on Twitter, and Quiet Parts Out Loud Substack. One of the things that they've pointed out is that the move by the Fed away from LIBOR and to the I just forgot the name of it. It's SOFR, the SOFR rate. I can't remember the exact name for it, but this is a move. Now I'm mostly taking their word for it. I've done a little bit of reading of it on my own. I'm pretty retarded with this stuff. Can understand just enough to get myself in trouble, but I get the gist of it. That this was a bigger move than it actually seemed potentially at the time in terms of reasserting American sovereignty over the dollar and over the U.S. economy. And this is driven by interests within the American commercial banking system who do not want to see their power structure handed over or ceded over to the globalist Davos agenda. So I think the idea that's beginning to percolate up for me here is I think we're seeing a retrenchment in the U.S. around explicitly pro-America sentiment. The idea that America should be a sovereign institution, that America should govern its own destinies. America should govern its own borders. America should be an economic powerhouse. We need to reestablish our manufacturing base, and we need a strong military. So in a way, it's kind of weird to think about it this way, but you could almost see this as America finally formally, fully declaring its independence from the British Empire. Now, some of these trends, you might say, like we talked about on the show with on AA mentioned how he sees the collapse of the British Empire happening. If I understood him correctly, essentially happening in the early 1900s. But some of these things have, when you have an institution, if you could even call the British Empire a singular institution, but when you have these institutions that last across centuries, then there's vestiges of them that can extend well beyond the apparent collapse. If you were to look back in, say 1,000 years from now, and you were to look back and you were to say, oh, well, the British Empire collapsed in 1903, or just whatever, pick a date. The British Empire collapsed in 1903. It would be nothing to say, let's see, to do it comparably. We say 1,000 years. So we look back and we say the empire collapsed in 903, AD 903. But the vestiges of it were still there, 120 years later. In 1023, there was this last remaining vestige that this partition was made. We wouldn't really think much of that. So we have this tendency to, the closer something gets to us, we tend to look at it with a higher resolution view. When some of these trends are necessarily ones that you're only going to see from pretty zoomed out. So I think it seems as if, especially on the economic front and the monetary and financial policy front, that the United States American interests are seeking to detach themselves from European interests, or at least from being beholden to European interests. You can see this with the Fed maintaining high rates and essentially waiting for the European Central Bank to blink and lower its own rates. You can see this as America is beginning to essentially reassert its sovereignty over its own borders, which is in direct opposition to the globalist instincts, the globalist agenda, the globalists. They see the United States as essentially, an economic zone, a policy making, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for here? Like a crucible, like a policy-making crucible, where you establish a certain power base and then you wield and weaponize that to then project it across the rest of the world, where the United States essentially just becomes a tool being used toward, and then American interests become a tool toward this globalist agenda. Now we're seeing American interests saying, no, America is not going to be simply a tool that's used for this globalist agenda. You guys have your globalist thing over there. We're going to reassert our own sovereignty, for better or for worse. And now I think part of this is one thing that I didn't get into directly with AA, because the conversation kind of took us a different direction. But when he was talking about the connections between Larry Ellison and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Tony Blair, And one of the questions I'd be curious to know an answer to, and I don't necessarily know if I'd be equipped to answer this, but one of the questions I'd be curious to know an answer to is there a substantive difference between making moves like that from an American investor's perspective, between making moves like that in Europe versus making them here at the home front? If we have a group of people who are now beginning to act as they see themselves fundamentally, they see their identity as Americans, they're acting as Americans, they're interacting with the world as Americans who want and are holding close an American identity. They want to have an American polity. They want to they genuinely believe in a lot of these American things about liberty and democracy and free markets and free speech and all that. Um, so it seems it would suit an American's interests perfectly to say, yeah, we're gonna engage in these sorts of partnerships that maybe are they taking advantage of the British people, buying the data of British people? Sure, you know that's the concern of the British people. That's the concern of British governance interests. That's not our concern. If they're willing to sell it to us, then sure, we'll take it. So I think these ideas can exist together. But I think that the gist of what's beginning to take shape in my mind is that I think this globalist agenda, the Davos vision of the world, is something that seems to emanate primarily. It seems to be sourced primarily to European aristocracy, and the American aristocracy doesn't seem to want to play ball, or they're at this point they're ready to they want to play ball on their own terms. So perhaps what we're seeing, perhaps if we go 100, 200, 300 years in the future and we look back at this era, we see, maybe it would take longer, maybe 500 years, I don't know. But perhaps it would be clear at that point that this era in history, this instability, is in large part a product of America as an entity formally establishing itself independent from Europe, rather than being, it's the most successful colony that has finally formally extracted itself from colony status and is beginning to assert its will in the world. This is kind of a weird framework for me to think about, because my perception of American hegemony is that America has been the big kid on the block for a substantial period of time. But in terms of the entire trajectory of history, 70 plus years isn't that long. We're still very new in a lot of these cycles. America's ascendancy to the preeminent global power is, you might say World War II, you might say the fall of communism. That gets into an interesting conversation about what communism was. This is something I've been familiar with in the past, and Richard Poe in this episode of Tom Longo is talking about it, that communism, and specifically Marx, were tools of British intelligence. It was something that was conceived of and weaponized and leveraged against the USSR, Russia, Soviets. It was being weaponized against them to try to undermine them and to ensure British control over the seaways and over trade in Europe. So if what we're seeing now is America finally formally declaring its own sovereignty, as it starts off as a colony. Well, the colonial personality might take a little while to wear off. It might take some generations to wear off. And to begin with, it was even when America declared independence, America at the time was still kind of an identity. It was an entity in its infancy. People for the majority of the 18th, 19th, even into the 20th centuries, even there's still holdovers today who don't see themselves as Americans. They see themselves as Virginians or Iowans or Californians or Floridians or Texans. Texas is probably the biggest, is almost certainly the biggest holdover on that front. But so if you think about America from 1776 to 1865, this is America actually coming into its own as a standalone identity, beginning to culminating in 1865, simply establishing the birth of the American Empire. But the birth of the American Empire was still largely restricted within American geographical borders. Now it's an empire of little North American countries, the states. They now become the initial members of the American Empire. And then throughout the late 18 and then early 1900s and into leading up into World War II, you have America now beginning to become a global empire. It's extending out beyond its own borders. Then we hit World War II, and America really shoots up. In the aftermath of World War II, America essentially builds itself off of financing all of the war debt from World War II, and is using the energy of this expansion, using its intelligence communities to knock off all these little countries around the fringes, particularly in the course of their war with the Soviet Union, the Cold War. And it finally hits the point of essentially global empire, but it's still being held in a very fundamental way through monetary policy under the thumb of the British Empire, whatever is left of the British Empire, of the City of London. It hasn't actually fully extracted itself from that. And we're seeing this tension between these opposing interests, these interests that see America as its own entity, its own standalone entity. They exist for the sake of America, versus these other competing interests that see America as something that exists for the sake of themselves, that exists for the sake of their own interests. And so the combination of Brexit and Trump and COVID and all of the events of the past, 10 to 20 years have really brought into full review, into stark relief, the reality of the arrangement of the players on the board. And so now, with this apocalyptic effect of the internet and social media, bringing all of this data on board, allowing us to view and evaluate and analyze this data, to communicate instantly, building out these networks of uncontrolled conversation. They've tried to control the conversation, but inevitably it's kind of an impossible task. Soft power censorship is ultimately like doomed to fail. You have to have the hard power. And then the hard power is very difficult to employ for a political entity that sees itself as a soft power entity, that's entire means for being is soft power. So now all of this has been brought into view, and people are acting, and they're taking advantage of the destabilizing, uncontained decentralization effect of the internet to leverage the stabilizing, centralizing effect of the internet for American interests. And I wouldn't be surprised, here's Jason, I wouldn't be surprised to see over the next couple of decades if we see a rise within Europe of people who are much more pragmatic about this, and they're just like, you know what? We need to retrench around European interests. And perhaps this comes with the decline of a European identity, but it could be that now America has become the model for Europe, where America was once the child of Europe. Now Europe, in a sense, is going to be modeling America. Obviously, this is the idea. The EU is essentially supposed to be something akin to this, and the EU's got a whole bunch of its own problems. But I'm very curious to see what happens when the king dies and we get King William. Because I don't think anybody really knows much about King William, what he thinks, what he wants, what he cares about. But I do know that he he experienced, he saw for himself, front and center, what happens when you decide that you don't want to play ball with the powers that be there, with his mom. I can't imagine that didn't have some sort of big impact on him. Now, to which direction? Is it like, okay, well, that's the line I don't want to cross? Or do we have some vengeful son energy in there that says,
It's going to be
when
it's going to be vengeful son because
you're on
it's
the
going to
wrong
affect
mic?
everyone. Oh, what? Oh,
Yeah.
damn it!
It's going to be vengeful son, yeah. And so then the which direction is this vengeful son energy going to be directed? Is this going to be a does he become the essentially maybe the reassertion of the British crown, where the British crown has kind of been a almost a ceremonial role for a long time? Are we going to see the British crown reassert itself under William? I think it's very interesting, all the stuff going on Twitter right now. All the white chicks on Twitter are all flutter about Kate Middleton and this picture that was released of her where her daughter's arm is very obviously photoshopped. And then I found another person that said it was an episode in Vogue or something like that using her face. And it seems very clear that the face on this picture sent out of her and her kids, that it was from this magazine cover. It's not an actual photo. So why are they putting out a doctored photo of her? She's missing. Nobody knows where she's been. So, and how does this play into the king, the future king, the king to be? What do you think, Jason?
Fun little counter narrative thing that I just saw too. There's a new remove makeup app, and they use Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks on it, with one picture with her with makeup and one with like this app taking her makeup off, and she looks like what you'd expect.
Yeah.
And she's apparently tweeted out, like, to all you assholes who keep retweeting this, I'm gonna find you and kill you, kind of whatever she said. I just thought that was cute. Yeah, no, look, the vengeful son is it's going to infect everything and everyone on some level. Now, does that mean that King William is going to be part of that energy or react against it? I don't know, right? Well, time will tell. But there will be reactions. It'll be actions and reactions, definitely. And depending on how people channel that energy and what they channel it into, it'll be more and more interesting. I think there's too many people. The one of the issues that I'm outlining in writing about Vengeful Son is that it's been 120 years at very least, and even more if you go back to, like, really this is all springing out of the revolutionary spirit, and that it got defeated, quote unquote, in Europe in 1848. Remember I told you, Matt, like a while ago, like something happened in the mid 19th century. I don't know what it was, but like something happened and things like changed. And it was the liberal revolution of 1848, I think, where the revolutionary spirit had obviously taken hold in England, America, France, and a few other, and Haiti, oddly enough, and had succeeded. Was it an active agent in the Industrial Revolution, Agricultural Revolution, Scientific Revolution, even in religion, but hadn't been able to take hold in Europe. And when it was tried, it got defeated initially in Italy, Scandinavia, Russia, all these other places. And I think that's where it turned dark, because it was like, oh, okay, in order to succeed, we have to go and bring in these sort of darker inverted spirits because I think on some level they realized that Christianity and Christendom was the thing that was able to defeat the revolutionary spirit in the majority of Europe and the world. And so in order to unseat Christianity, they had to bring back some old gods. So then you get Tyrannical Father, which is Saturn, Devouring Mother, which is some sort of inverted form of Gaia or moon worship, that kind of thing, Earth Mother kind of thing. And now you're going to have the Vengeful Son, which, in a weird way, the way I'm seeing it, and again, I might be off because this is like, it gets murky, man. Like, especially get into the future stuff. But I see it going kind of not one of two ways, but two ways almost simultaneously. And it'll be interesting. And I think it's almost like who wins out here, because the Vengeful Son spirit is almost like tearing down. It's like an awareness of a betrayal, awareness of the lie, the great lie, the empire of lies. The energy will be put into destroying that, but as it destroys it, what replaces it will be the thing I don't know. So whether it gets replaced by some total atheistic, technocratic dystopia, cyberpunk 2077 kind of world with cyborgs and yada yada, or it gets replaced with almost a neo Christendom, or both at the same time, just in some weird cohabitation thing, because maybe on some level that cyber dystopia kind of almost needs. I think that's the call for us, right? And this is where it gets into civ capital and towns and all that stuff, is that the more useful we are for ourselves and our own people, but in general, and that doesn't mean we have to work with the technocrats. We don't have to like be on board and work for Palantir, although maybe we can. I don't know, right? But I don't have an inside track on Peter Thiel's inner workings, right? I'm just observing what he's doing and trying to extrapolate from that. But and maybe one day I'll get to sit down with him and we'll have a better figuring out session, which I'll probably have to sign an NDA and who knows, right? But just don't go into the back room. Why is there a lot of? Where is it? Why are there's a? Why do I might have to kneel by the? Why is this hole here? What's going on? With lights around it. But I just derailed myself. Oh, so I don't know, man. I think if we're to build a game plan, and something that you said on the AA stream, by the way, loved it. You crushed. Hats off to you, sir.
Thank you.
I love you, brother.
Like, ditto.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like you done good. You done good, sir. Very, very almost surreal to hear AA say the words, "We don't live in a civilization anymore." And it's like, we're gonna have to track that one. See who else says that now. That'll be interesting. Anyways, I've also quit drinking for Lent, and I'm a house full of women, so I'm extra annoyed. Just for anybody in the chat or anyone who comes on this
You're
panel,
ready to fight, huh?
I'm twitchy, man. Dealing with certain I was in the comment section in the AA stream. Just dealing with race realists now is both amusing and annoying at the same time. It's scratching to. It's like I get to get my anger out, and I just find it funny. So forgive me if I forgive me, Father. Anyways, where was I? Sucking Peter Thiel's dick, right?
Yes.
So through the glory hole, right? I don't know. I think that if we're planning out what we should do, we have to make the assumption or come from the assumption that history is going to keep going. We are going to be part of it. Our children will be part of it. So in terms of action plans, we need to start building as if there is a stable state that will either come into existence in our lifetime or will come into existence after we're gone. But we have to keep going towards that. To plan to this Kumpod, eat bugs, dystopia, horrible, don't do anything because Jews thing. I'm just dismissing it all because it's stupid.
It's the worst kind of liberalism.
And that's it, right? Every single race realist in my freaking comments or anything going, nah, 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 nah. Dude, you're using liberal talking points to own the libs. You're fucking stupid.
Yes.
Okay? And I can't deal with stupid anymore. I just can't. It's get that ant smell the fuck away from me. Like I'm done. So whatever.
I was thinking I would see the chat sometimes as I was talking, and I saw the people who were talking about Musk, and they were like you said your comment about the neotrads and using Musk as a model, and one of them was like which divorce, the fourth one, and like they started bringing up all of his foibles, and it was like.
And then AA says, "Hey, there's like 7-year-olds talking about how great Musk is, and going and wearing his shirts and pretending to be him at your hero day." That's what I'm fucking talking about.
Yes, yes. This is what what I realized is these are the version of these are like the David Frenches of the world who freaked the fuck out when Trump came on the scene and started crying about Trump because he was uncouth or he was he's hung out with porn stars or whatever. And people would say Trump is a. It was very clear to the people who liked Trump that they saw him as a vehicle for their traditionalist impulses. They wanted a revival in traditionalist values, and they saw Trump as kind of paradoxically that. Because if you try to reduce it to just things like, oh, he got divorced, or he slept with porn stars, or he has made his entire living off of debt, and puts big garish gold things everywhere, and
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Missing
It doesn't fucking matter, because you know what? No one's modeling the gold toilet. No one's modeling fucking porn stars, because they can't. Right? The average person, the average Trump supporter with the hat on and stuff of that, the hat is what you look for.
Yeah,
the hat's the thing. The hat, like, that's why I'm done with stupid, like, because here's the other thing frustrating. I think, Matt, I'm just gonna air some shit out now. Sorry, I'm using your platform to drop some nuclear bombs, and it's one of the comments I dealt with recently in that David Gronowski talk we had, is again this thing like, oh, this won't work because of race. Yeah, you have to thing, and it's like this. And I'm like, no, I'm dismissing that. Like, I'm dismissing the whole thing. And then there's this long thing like, why won't you answer the question? And I'm like, I just did. But okay, go watch the entire Civilizational Capital playlist that we've been putting together. We talk about race a lot there. Go ahead. And if you want my definitive answer, you're fucking stupid, and I want you to get the fuck away from me. Okay? Because here's the thing. You want an ethno state? Fantastic. Go build one. Yes. Why are you arguing with me?
What, do you want me to build it for you? Is that what it comes down to?
Oh, you want me to build the thing that I don't care about building? Like, what is it? Go build it then. Yeah, show me up. I'm the stupid one. Okay. Well, if you're so fucking smart, you go do it.
Cooper and I were talking on the phone today. We were saying,
sorry, I'm swearing a lot. I was just
You're good. This is a future stream. We're gonna make fun of all the neo-pagans because they're just so dumb.
Excruciating.
Just the most painful. I think really Cooper was really onto something when he said, if you're going to be an online autist, you have two options. One of them is to be one of them is to be a transmission, and one of them is to be a fascist. But it's both, in both senses. It's just the same personality. That's what these. It's like furry energy. The guys, the race realist guys. So Cooper pointed out, because someone in the chat said, "Are we against race realism now?" And he said, "No, not race realism, race realists."
No, we're against
per se and crypto enthusiasts.
We're against piss drinking fuck monkeys. That's what we're against. Okay,
yeah, right.
Piss drinking fuck monkeys can fuck off. Like, that's. Sorry, Cooper. Yeah. I know I'm triggering Cooper here, but I'm being an unworthy co-host. I don't know how to co-host. I'm always the host, never the co-host. I don't know how to do these things.
Going through some of the comments here, Minoan said, Kingpilled, why do you think the boomers will die off that fast? I think they'll spend their last penny for a few more years and won't let go that easily. It's not that I think that they're going to die off fast. It's that I think we're going to experience the boomer die-off more dramatically than the die-off of previous generations, because of the way they've held on to power, to institutional power, to financial power. They've held on to these things later, deeper into their life than the power transfer hasn't happened fully yet between the boomers and Gen X, despite the fact that the oldest boomers are in their 80s. We've got boomer presidents who are basically 80 or in their 80s. And so
plus they're overrepresented in let's say the white collar world. With my grandfather's generation, there was a pretty good split between blue collar, white collar. So even when that generation died off, I mean, there was obviously probably a bit of a brain drain or experience drain, but they were equally representative, more or less. Where with the boomers, the majority of them are all white collar. Like, that's where they made their money and stuff. So when they go, suddenly there's like this massive vacuum in the white collar world.
Right. And it's not like you're getting these people who are going up to 60, 65, 70, and then retiring and sort of going into a quieter life. And as their institutional direction and power and everything begins to shift, these people are holding on until they die. Like they're dying at work. They're dying in their positions of power. So that,
and just add on to that too, like
Yeah.
this is where immigration in the terms of blue collar, and I know this is going to trigger everybody, so please just bear with. You can bring Mexicans in and they can be carpenters.
Mhm.
Now, maybe they're not the greatest carpenters. They're not as good as the white carpenters. Great, fantastic, good. Yes, okay, good. You're right. I'm wrong, whatever, right? But they can do manual labor, right? They're have a much harder time bringing in immigrants who don't have language skills and don't have like certain other skills that can just slot into even minor positions within the white collar world. Like language alone is a huge thing. It's massive, and then it's culture and all the rest of it. So in terms of one-to-one training, it's not like a one-to-one thing. You can maybe bring a Swede in who has been speaking, has been being taught English since the 5th grade as a second language. That's not so bad. But bringing in a Mexican who has like zero English, you can't just go make him a manager at Denny's, like unless it's a full Spanish work, laborers and customers. It doesn't work, right? So.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. I now have the baby monitor. You want to see? There's my son sleeping. What? Oh. Okay. Let's see. So, thank you, Wooksy. Secured overnight financing rate was exactly what I was looking for. SOFR. That's the move that the Fed made from away from LIBOR and to SOFR, which is interesting because, as I understand it, and I know there's probably going to be some people that understand this even less than I do, but for those of you who do, what seems interesting about it is that it's almost like moving. It's like you're grounding the value of the U.S. dollar in U.S. economic activity, which is a very interesting meta sort of move. It's very clever. So now, you've had like the petrodollar, where the ground of the U.S. dollar's value essentially is in the fact that you have to have it to be able to transact in the oil markets. And now it's like it seems to me, as I understand it, and this is just a total retard with this stuff, but it seems to me like it's a ballsy bet on the U.S. Economy. Essentially, it's a bet on U.S. productivity and U.S. economic activity. So there's something that's it seems very Ponzi-esque about it, but it's kind of like, well, whatever you got to do to keep it running, I would be perfectly happy for if there's like American sovereigntist interests that want to keep American economic activity high and use this to protect American sovereignty, and so they're going to ground the dollar in that, and then maybe backstop aspects of it with Bitcoin or something. There's very interesting directions a lot of this can go. And I'm more than happy for them to do that if that means that I can maintain some level of economic stability in the country that I'm in, so that I can continue to promote my own family's interests.
Matt, are you saying you actually want to put the interests of your family and your friends above other concerns, like the color of people's skin in your country? Oh my goodness, man! Are you even part of our side of the internet anymore? Like, what's going on?
I've
like,
completely apostatized, haven't I?
That was the other. That was the other comment. That was the other comment threat I got. Like, essentially, like oh, you don't want to answer the question. You don't want to answer this race question because it's going to out you from this side of the internet. I'm like, you have no. Do you know who the fuck you're talking to? Like,
I've heard your rants about India.
Do you? Well, yeah. What? A, but B, I give zero fucks. Like I couldn't. I can't. I'd have to take loans out to find a fuck to give about the side of the internet.
I'm gonna
Get the fuck away from me, you fucking mouth breathing maggot. What the fuck is wrong with you? Fuck flaps. Listen,
that was
I think of ideas, I express them. People like them, they come back and they listen to more. That's the relationship we have. If something I say somehow flies against your little tiny ideology that you're holding on to today, that's a you problem, not a me problem. I don't fucking give a shit. Like, what's wrong with these people? Have you not been listening to any of the things I say? Like, do you? I've been doing this for 3 years now. I get it. You maybe your first time you're watching. Hi, I'm Jason Marinchuk. I don't give a shit. I don't. This is the thing I do. I'm grumpy. I'm agitated most days. I got IBS. I'm pre-diabetic. I just found that out. It's like I high blood pressure. That's I'm gonna be dead soon. So like, don't worry about it, man. Like, I'm just working on some stuff. That's what I do. Sorry.
Did you see there was someone in there who said something about
Hi, AA, if you're watching. This is I don't know why I don't reply to my tweets.
Maybe he will now.
Maybe.
There was someone in there who said something about like had anybody ever heard of this guy before the last week? And talking about me, like, oh, there I am. I'm the plant. I'm the Fed.
I saw
I'm the
that come up.
glowy.
It's convenient that this Matt guy came out of the woodwork to talk about the new king. Very sus. This is glows. I'm like, what made me laugh out loud about that is you and I have talked about this in DMs and joked about it. Like, countdown is now on. So you, or especially you, because you're being invited to the bigger shows, but we're now going to be just, yes, we're Feds. Yes, the guy who made up the show Friend or Fed.
See, that's why you did it. That's why you gotta think in levels here, man.
I'm an onion.
4D, 5D, 6D chess. The levels are unlimited. See, one thing that
vaporwave chess.
One thing that I was thinking about with this this whole Fed phenomenon. This is one of the, you know what, I'm just gonna plow head on into it because I don't think there's any other way to do it. The whole meme of Fed and like trying to out the people who are Feds, I could think of no more clever plot by actual Feds to completely disable people's ability to fend for themselves and do anything for their own people than the Fed meme. Because the way that it gets used is anybody who's doing anything except for edgelord posting on the internet is a Fed. Anybody who starts talking about doing anything productive in meat space or organizing in any way to try to protect or promote our own interests automatically gets labeled a Fed. I think it's like the best deep state plot ever, if it actually is one. I think it's actually too clever even for them because I don't have an incredibly high opinion of them. But this is we've raged. If you've watched the show for any length of time, we have raged on about the doom pilling, self neutering impulse among whatever you want to call it, dissident right wing Twitter, NRX, whatever. This little group of us, the impulse, the crabs in the bucket impulse is really, really strong. And really, I think this is born out of the fundamental nihilism.
We should just ban it.
Yeah, if you come into the King Pill Discord and you start like doom posting, then with the exception of Wyman gets away with it because he's our mascot. Anybody else who comes in and starts doom posting is getting the boot. We don't need that. It doesn't do anything for anybody. I can appreciate you like wanting to combat an inappropriate idealism or something that you might see. But it spirals itself out of control so quickly. Once people start doom posting and start imagining the forces of evil arrayed against them, they get into this like fevered fantasy where they begin projecting the most insane levels of 4D chess and 98D chess on all of their enemies. They imagine this as one gigantic organized cabal of people that have gamed out every possible different direction that it could go for centuries in advance.
I just found a Jew underneath my desk. I just found a Jew underneath my desk, Matt. What do I do? It's very Jewy. He's rubbing his hands.
You probably give him a bagel and he'll go bother someone else.
We don't have bagels down here. We have crumpets. It's like the gayest form of bagel.
What kind of tunnels do you have in Australia? Is there a deep tunnel network there?
Probably upside down.
If it's not, I'm sure they're coming soon to create it. Yeah, this just doesn't do anything for anyone. Like, if all of this stuff is true, if everything is containment, if everything is all a plot to just funnel you right back into the what's that, the chute, the cattle chute that they head down before they get slaughtered. If that's what literally everything is, then what are you doing? Why don't you just walk on down the chute and get slaughtered? The fact that you're not tells me that you must deep down somewhere believe that there is some sort of possible future where that's not the case. Because otherwise, you'd be accomplishing nothing by posting on the internet to people about it. Hey guys, no matter what, everything is all just going to end in catastrophe and death and slaughter and humiliation.
Or here's the thing, right? Too, it's like you're doing this. Like, I think there's evil overlords, and I'm against you. Look, I'm so against you online. Look, I'm going to be a big giant target to these evil overlords who destroy everything. Please, I'm going to. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
right?
If you truly believe this as a sense of self-preservation, shut up. Like, what? Do you go walking in the woods where there's bears with big giant pieces of meat hanging off you in a meat suit? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I think the Jews are all powerful and control everything and will destroy everyone's lives if they speak out against them. Here, let me write this big X post speaking out against them. Like, oh, my anon name will save me. Like, this is why stupid and smell go away. Like, either way, you're fucked. Like, I don't get it.
Kalamrosh says, Adam, all roads lead to Jayish supremacy, green. But he's like the perfect example of this. The guy who he claims, ostensibly, and I think he believes his claim, that he is opposed to the Talmudic view of the world. However, you will find no greater defender of the Talmudic view of the world on the internet. If you listen to any of his conversations, like any of his debates with a Christian at all, the entire substance of the debate is, no, the things you say about your religion are not true. The things the Jews say about your religion are true. He's literally just arguing for the Talmudic view of Christianity. He might as well be a rabbi himself. This is the same phenomenon. That when you get yourself trapped in a dialectic opposition where you no longer have your own identity, you just have an I'm not that identity. You have a negative identity, like libertarians with the state, or libs with fascists, or there's countless examples of this. When you trap yourself into this dialectic relationship, then you begin actually manifesting the very thing that you claim to be against.
The dialectic that basically it creates is like commentators or creators, right? Or what's the other way I was going to put it? There's something else, another distinction. But there's like two distinctions. It's not even civ frame, primal frame. It's literally people who like Kumpod people and people who don't want to live in the Kumpod and are saying, since I don't want to do that, I'm going to take actions that will prevent me from doing that. Like, well, which will give me other options, hopefully, preferably. And other people are like, well, we're just going to go live in the tomb pod, but I'm going to write an angry Yelp review about these bug burgers. Like,
yes, I'm going to take actions to try to prevent myself from living in the coon pod. No, they've already thought of that. Nope, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's going to send you right into the coon pod. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to try doing this other thing to get... Nope, can't do that. They've already covered that too. They've thought of everything. No matter what, it's a slippery slope straight into the coon pods for all of us. There's nothing we can do about it. It's indistinguishable from just open advocacy for the coon pods. You have the same
think about it this way, right? I'm sure there's people out there saying with Haiti, like, oh, they wanted to destroy Haiti so they could to get in there and remodel it and do it. I'm like, oh, couldn't they have just done that from the beginning? Like, okay, so let me get this straight. In your world, people, these elites, these nefarious Jews, are spending billions of dollars to destroy a country to then be able to spend billions of dollars to rebuild the country. Huh? Like, especially when you're dealing with like Haiti. It's a shithole. It's like it's been trying to be. They've been trying. They, you know how many billions of dollars they've spent into like fixing Haiti over the last like 100 or so odd years. Lots, just lots. So like, what the new thing is just like, well, just let it collapse and then rebuild it again with Haitians. What are you like? If this is okay, and let's say that that is the plan, and that's what these people are doing, then they're retarded, and we don't have to worry about them.
Right. This is Karl Habermas says free refugees. The refugee phenomenon. This is a fantastic example of this. So everyone spends all their time clutching their pearls over how this is going to yield a permanent Democratic majority. The Democrats are going to rule us forever because they brought in all of these refugees. The thing about bringing in a whole bunch of refugees from Middle Eastern countries and from traditionally Latin American or traditionally Catholic Latin American countries is they don't tend to have the strongest affinity for this particular tribe. So this is one of the many examples of the things that where they orchestrate their own undoing, because they're bringing in a destabilizing force to try to destabilize their enemies. But in destabilizing their enemies, they're destabilizing the very thing that they are trying to I don't want to use the P word because it's probably a little too close for YouTube's terms here, but you know the P word. I said it on the other stream. They can't kill the host. They have to keep the host alive, which means inevitably they have to make a deal with the devil from their perspective. So they make a deal with the devil from their perspective that is the necessity of that is brought about by the very means they used to try to undermine their host. So unless, like, it really just gets back to this, North Sea. That's the correct word. Parasite. Trying to avoid the algorithms that look for words that are close to one another.
On some level, you can't.
Right.
Peppermint, better word.
Peppermint.
They're peppermints. Peppermints from now on.
Yeah, peppermints. So they're peppermints who inevitably wind up destroying the mouth of that sucks on the peppermint. It's just a very weird analogy.
We have to use it now. It stays. That's a keeper.
So, I mean, all of this, I think.
But no one's right. I've already triggered the algorithm.
Probably,
You're demonetized now. Sorry.
All of our last several episodes have all been. It is what it is.
It's how I catch up to you now. It's in terms of revenues.
Yeah, this is so. It just goes back to the doom-pilled perspective. Is very to me it's really just like the essence of liberalism. These people who are the relentless doom posters are not, they may see themselves as anti-liberal, but it's really kind of the great paradox of liberalism that the people who think they're opponents of liberalism are actually expressing its deepest essence, and they're projecting a level of competence and superhuman, basically like demigod status to the people they claim to oppose.
This is why with the Vengeful Son, I'm using mythological archetypes and putting it back to Saturn and all these things. You're seeing it all through it. And it's because this isn't a religion. Like people say the woke, it's a church of woke. No, it's a myth. It's the myth of woke. It's just a mythology. And the way you destroy mythology, and this is a Girardian thing, is with Christendom. Christianity destroys mythology. It does a lot of things all at once, like it gets rid of human sacrifice and cannibalism, which is fun. That's what it does. Like the Christ story, as we're heading into Great Lent, and we're going to be thinking and observing the Gospels pretty much daily, or well, pretty much daily. Yeah, take heart in that. Here's the bitter white pill for you folks, and I get it, right? Mass immigration into especially your country by the entire third world, horrible situation. I'm not saying people shouldn't be alarmed or shouldn't have their feelings about it, right? I'm not doing that. What I am saying here is the bitter white pill is that they're trucking in people who have IQs less than a gorilla. Let me say that again. They're trucking in mass amounts of people with a collective IQ less than a fucking gorilla. If you can't outcompetency these people, you don't deserve to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Walk up some stairs and you fucked with them. Like they'd be like, how do you? An escalator is going to be like a wild, wonderful thing for them. Like this is like.
Did you see the video of all the they installed an escalator in like Bangladesh or something like that, and
Jesus.
everybody was trying to climb onto it, and they were just like stumbling and falling over, just a pile of bodies.
See, I say things, I get proven right almost immediately now. Okay, I didn't even know this, and of course you just know it. Right, like it'd be like the T1, you know, in RoboCop, the big giant one who can't fucking go downstairs. Yeah, it's that. Oh, he's really big and impressive, dangerous. Oh, he's going to chop your head off until you go down a flight of stairs and you fuck with him. A moving walkway, magic, like just show them shaman magic. Well, I can take your picture. Oh, my soul's stolen. Yeah, I have your soul, fucker. Now you work for me. What? Like, how is this hard? And I get it. It's not ideal. If you were being invaded by Asians, you'd have a problem. Right, like a significant competency problem because they just outwork you. And I'm talking like the Asians, not the Asians, but everyone else, you're worried about East Indians? They have cow dung festivals, motherfucker. Like, how you can outculture them just by like not rolling around in shit. I don't know why this is hard for people to know that this is actually very hopeful because the army they're bringing in is not impressive. You know, you're going to be able to scare them away with fire. You know?
Wooksy here said, if you're not considering a downside, you're not really considering things at all when you make a decision. See, so not considering a downside. So if you don't accept the notion that everything is containment, that all is doom, that every single possibility for an opportunity, for hope, for any sort of positive change, if you don't consider that every single one of these things is all just cope, then you're not actually making good decisions. I would counter with the idea that everything is doom and gloom, that there is no opportunity, that everything is containment, the idea that there is a single organization that has exacted absolute control over all possibilities of the future throughout the entire globe, and that everything's going to hell in a handbasket, is 100% not supported by any part of history whatsoever. So if you're making decisions on that premise, you're the one who's not actually dealing in reality. The reality is that the future is going to be a lot more boring than you think it is. The future is going to be, there's going to be pockets of excitement. There's going to be maybe decades where things are chaotic and crazy. I think we're living in one of those right now. If you'd have described this world, if you'd have described the way the world is right now to someone 10 years ago, they would have thought you were out of your mind. They would have been like, there's no way that things could change that much in 10 years. There's no way the world would look like that. And yet here we are in the middle of great strife and instability and perpetually on the cusp of chaos and collapse and all of this. Economy in the shitter, just everyone's struggling to get by. And I'm sitting here doing a live stream, instantly talking to some dude in Australia while I'm waiting for my wife to get home with some food she's going to buy from a restaurant so we can eat and go to sleep in our nice warm house. My son's asleep in the other room. Like, this is what it feels like to live in times of great chaos and strife and instability. Could things get worse? Sure, maybe. But if you think that things are going to get worse in the near future, then why the fuck are you wasting your time posting on the internet? I've got an excuse. I think that if things are going to get worse, I still am going to be able to benefit from spending time posting on the internet. I've got a plan associated with it. But if you think that things are just complete doom and gloom and there is no possible hope and it's the coom pod for all of us, then what are you just like? Are you just camped out, just smoking a fag on the deck of the Titanic as it's going down? Well, why do you even care?
Well, I mean,
Just
if
smoke
you are,
just
at
smoke
least,
your cigarette and shut up.
and if you are doing that, at least play some good music on the way down. Like,
Sure, yeah,
be useful.
yeah.
somehow.
At least be entertaining.
Yeah. I'm gonna. Do you mind if I do a little reading? Like, this is from one of the. It's short.
Yeah,
This is from Depths of the World. It came out not the last one, the one before that. This kind of puts things in a little bit of perspective, a little bit.
Okay, I'm dropping the
of
link to join the panel. If you're in the King Pill Discord, I'm dropping it in the Peanut Gallery thread there. If anybody wants to hop on the panel, if you're not part of the King Pill Discord already, we would invite you to become part of it. There's the link on the screen here, linktree.com/kingpilled. You can go sign up there. If you sign up at the King level, then that'll get you access to the channel to be able to hop on the panel here. So if anybody wants to hop on the panel, that's how you can get on there. Go ahead and read, Jason. I just got some food.
Okay, so this is Silence is Violence by Archpriest David Summer. In the modern classic book, Father Arnancy, Priest, Prisoner, Spiritual Father, there is a dialogue in the barracks of a Soviet prison camp between Father Arnancy and his fellow prisoners about who is to blame for all the turmoil in Russia at the time. Father Arnancy stopped for a moment and then said, "You are having a heated argument. It has turned sour, even fierce. It is truly difficult to live in the camp, and we all know how it will end for us. That is why the argument has become so bitter. It is understandable. Only no one should be destroyed or killed. All of you are blaming the authorities, the orders, the people. You have pulled me in to draw me into one side and irritate the other. You say that the communists have arrested the believers, closed the churches, trampled on faith. Yes, it does look that way on the surface. But let us look into this more deeply. Let us glance at the past. Amongst us Russian people, many of us have lost faith. Sorry, let me get this. Lost respect for our past. We lost much of what was precious and good. Who is at fault? The authorities? No, we are at fault ourselves. We are only reaping what we ourselves have sown. Let us remember the bad example set by the intelligentsia, the nobility, the merchants, and the civil servants. We in the priesthood were the worst of them all. Children of priests became atheists and revolutionaries, simply because they had seen in their families lies and lack of true faith. Long before the revolution, priests had already lost the real right to be shepherds of their people, of their conscience. Priesthood had become a profession. Many priests were atheists and alcoholics. From among the monasteries of our land, only 5 or 6 were real beacons of Christianity. Valin Monastery, Optinia Pustin, with its great Starsky, Divinsky Covenant, and also the monastery of Sarov. Others became communities with almost no faith in them. What could the people learn from such monasteries? What kind of example was set? We did not raise our people right. We did not give them the basis of strong faith. Remember all this. Remember. This is why the people were so quick to forget all of us, their own priests. They mainly forgot their faith and participated in the destruction of churches, sometimes even leading the way in their destruction. Understanding all of this, I cannot point a finger at our authorities, because the seed of faithfulness fell on the soil which we ourselves had prepared, and from there comes all rest, our camp, our sufferings, the wrongful death of innocent people. But I will tell you in all sincerity, whatever happens in my country, I am its citizen. As a priest, I always told my spiritual children that it is our responsibility to defend and support our fatherland. What is happening now must end. It was a huge mistake that will sooner or later be corrected. And it's from Father Arnancy, Priest, Prisoner, Spiritual Father, pages 56 to 57, chapter title, Whose Side Are You On, Priest? And when I read this like a while ago, that stuck with me like hard. And it's really part of what we're saying. I've calmed down now, guys. It's calmed down until we get more people in here, and then they start pissing me off, and then we'll see where we go. But good fathers help me. but this is it, right? Take responsibility. Take responsibility for your situation. Take it all on you. Take all of Western civilization on you if you can, and say, we don't live in a civilization anymore. We need to build one. Blaming other people is not going to get you anywhere. Blame is not bricks. It just isn't. The longer you stay in a liberal framework with a liberal mindset, you can't have a civilization, because liberalism in its current form, or is, let's say liberalism is the new Gnosticism, is the, yeah, okay, fine. It's a civilization killer. The entire purpose of it is to liberate yourself from responsibility, history, everything else. So I got a knock on the door. I'll be back.
The function of liberalism is the reason it's a civilizational killer. This is something Jason and I have discussed in the past. The reason it's a civilizational killer is because of its atomizing influence. By training your focus on the individual and conditioning you to see yourself as an individual, to concern yourself with rights, to concern yourself with what society owes you versus what you owe to the people around you by dint of your being born into that society, is to begin dissolving. It becomes an acid that begins to dissolve the ties that actually unite a civilization together. Because a civilization is really just like a complex human relationship network. A civilization is a gigantic family.
A vessel of competency.
Yes. The only way that a family maintains its identity, maintains its unity, maintains itself as a family, as opposed to a disparate group of individuals, is because of their mutually recognized obligations to one another. So in order to have a civilization, you have to fundamentally remove the perspective of yourself as an atomized individual. You are not an individual. Your identity, the very notion of identity, presumes an other and a relationship to that other. And each of these relationships brings with it an obligation, a set of duties, a set of responsibilities, because that other is someone who's made in the image of God. You're having Christ imaged to you in that person because they are human and he is the perfect human. And in the same way, you ought to be imaging Christ to them. This is how you have a civilization. Without that, it's going to dissolve. And so liberalism is a civilizational acid because it induces people into seeing themselves as an anti-civilizational in their very essence. What's up, Joshua Ham?
Yep. Remember when a while ago when I was talking about the pyramid of hierarchy versus the gray ooze of liberalism?
Mm-hmm.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
It's always built upon the concept of breaking boundaries, right? It's revolutionary in its inception. Like everything from it is revolutionary. Well, the problem is, okay, like let's say that slavery is bad. We're going to have a revolution to overthrow slavery. Okay, well, when the reasoning behind it isn't that all humans are created equal in God's image per se, or even if that's your starting point, but then you just kind of begin to shrink that down and make it simpler for people to understand. Well, now you just get to all humans are created equal, and then you get to all humans are equal, and then it's, well, obviously the outcomes aren't the same, so now we have to make them equal. And then you get Harrison Bergeron, one of the greatest short stories that everyone should read.
Mm-hmm. Jason, question for you. Vulpus Persona says, does the virgin daughter come after the vengeful son? This is something I've been wondering about. So
I saw that.
What comes after the vengeful son? Do we know?
I don't. I've been thinking a lot about it. It's actually been holding up my writing a little bit. Because I feel like I should at least have a sketch to work towards. But I honestly don't know. I don't know how this plays out, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, let's game plan it out a little bit live. Maybe you guys can help me out. Option 1, Vengeful Sun continues into this more inversions. I don't know how. I don't like that idea a little bit because I don't know how much more inverted we can get,
Mm-hmm.
and like, and not issue in the end times. So, okay, Vengeful Sun equal end times. Option 1, right? Like real deal end times. Like this is the one we're talking about, right? Eschaton of eschatons. Option 2, you're right. Vengeful Sun is the end of the inversion and flips it back into Virgin Daughter. We get back into the positive archetype. No longer in the shadow, we step into the light. Maybe. I personally like that version for I think a lot of reasons. I don't know if there's an option 3 or C or whatever from there, or it's just, or we could say Vengeful Sun leads to some other form of something that is not yet defined, and we continue along that path for a while. Which I just don't. I don't. For whatever reason, my intuition says it's not going to be Cyberpunk 2077.
It's not going to be the Virgin Daughter.
Yeah, I think once you start fucking with these, with like the functionality of things, like even genetic things, right? It'll be able to do a lot of novel shit. Like, you got brown eyes, it'll be blue eyes, right? Maybe they add a few inches to things. But I don't think it will. I think once you get into the nitty gritty of it and people really start screwing around, you're going to find out, like everything else in life, there's trade-offs. So it's like, oh, we can fix blindness through this, but then it gives people ocular cancer down the line, or we can put this chip in you, and that's fine, and it fixes your autisms or whatever. Oh, but in like a third of the cases, people lose all feeling in their legs. Whoops, like shit like that, or they go blind, or they start bleeding from their ears. It's whatever, right? Like it's just gonna have trade-offs that we don't know yet, and it'll be interesting to see how we react to that. I don't know. That's my thing.
So the reason I say it won't be the Virginal Daughter is because, like, we've been in the devouring mother stage where it's matriarchal, it's very feminine in the way that it's destructive, and it's going to go to Vengeful Sun, which is going to be patriarchal and vengeance, right? But you're not going to get matriarchy that comes out of vengeful patriarchy. That's not what's going to happen. You're going to have vengeful patriarchy actually change into ordered patriarchy, and then it has to decay from order back to matriarchy, right? Because you can't take the patriarchy from men. We are the builders. That's what we do. It's only when it decays.
See, I don't. My position on this is I don't think Vengeful Sun will lead to patriarchy. I think Vengeful Sun will lead to this neotrad thing, which will be take wokeism, all the principles of wokeism, and then just put a new veneer on it. So a lot of the principles will remain the same, but a lot of the obvious degeneracy will be removed. But the degeneracy will still be there. And Vengeful Sun is going to operate. So in times past, we didn't have women in these kinds of equal positions of power. That's not going away. What's the new one where it's like hating on tomboys, and there's that girl, that's really cute girl, who does all that shit, and people are saying like, oh, she's dominating in a male dominant. Like, okay, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like, it's not going to be patriarchy that's going to take over matriarchy. It's going to be this very awkward duality, and it's going to be a tug and war between the sexes, because
that's
it's
tradition.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to return to something like that. It's just that it's not going to be. It's still inverted, so you're going to see these things. It's the shadow of tradition. So take all the good things of tradition and invert them, and you're going to see a lot more of that presenting itself. That's the key to this, and I think I owed a lot of this kind of thinking to Pajot, is that we live in an inverted world. Like, once you accept that, and that the devouring mother is the inversion of the divine mother, right? The tyrannical father is the inversion of the wise father, of these archetypes. You take the shadow form of them in a Jungian term. That's what we're living in. We're living in this shadow realm. So to riff off Cyprian, he thinks we're heading into a dim age. I think we've been in the dim age for 120 years now, and we will continue to exist in this dim age. The vengeful son is not going to be a savior. That's the real big thing to keep in mind, and it's the big thing that I keep telling people, that the problem with the vengeful son for a lot of us is it's going to feel good. It's going to feel right. You're going to like see the bad people get justice. And you're like, yeah, fucking right. Let's tear this fucker down.
I can always find more justice to deliver.
Yeah, let's throw some drones up their asses. Right. Yeah. But it's only going to make the situation worse. It's only going to continue the inversion.
Frank Castle never runs out of mortal enemies.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's another key feature of liberalism as well. Like we live in a liberal world. Even if you say we live in a post-liberal world, you're still defining the world in terms of liberalism. So, and one of the key features of liberalism is what is it that I've said before, that liberalism is like resentment corporatized. It's what you get when you build a political system out of resentment. So it breeds resentment and it feeds on resentment. So it's literally eating its own progeny. So when you operate out of resentment, when you act out of resentment, you are not actually you cannot be non-liberal. To act out of resentment is to embody the ethos of liberalism. So the vengeful son is very resentful. So we're not going into you might say post-liberal, like just for the sake of like postmodern to modern, just as a way of demarcating the era, whatever mouth sound you want to use, whatever. But the actual we're getting like we're moving more and more in the direction of a distillation of the absolute spirit of liberalism. And I don't think liberalism is actually I don't think it's a fleeting phenomenon. I don't even if the world still exists in 5,000 years, I think you would still be able to trace back over the previous 10,000 years, and you could take the thread of liberalism and you could draw it through the entire thing.
Sure, it's Gnosis, because it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's a Gnostic factory. It's just an ideological form, a modern ideological remapping form. Look what modernists do. Psychology, in many cases, and this is the crazy thing when you get into orthodoxy, you start looking into it as the hospital. Modern psychology is just a remapping and rephrasing of a lot of what Orthodox priests have been saying for 2,000 years, right? Even Girard, who I love and I fall back on because he's so useful, especially since Peter Thiel's a Girardian. Like it's a really useful heuristic. But even Father Turbo once said about this. It's like, yeah, the passions, right? Got it. Like. Right. Covered this for like a long time, and he's right. You read Saint Piesos, and it's like there's Girard.
Like, and for all of us political people, like, oh wow, we've rediscovered Plato's Republic again.
Right. Mm-hmm. We just put our little. This is the frustrating thing. Well, one of the frustrating things. One of the things that frustrates me. There are many, but and thank you, Matt, for having me on and let me voice. I'm sorry if I'm being a jackass, but
no,
whatever.
This is great.
Pete's not here, so I got to fill in the rants portion of the show. One of the things that frustrates me is that I brought this up with Yarvon, who's on the Rogan thing. It's like we have to create the desire for order, and and almost any order will do. And what's frustrating with a lot of people is they're like, no, only my order.
Yes.
Only my order can succeed. There's a meme of it for like Elon's repeated this meme, like the world's going to everything's going to collapse, and then we're going to resubstantiate civilization, but it's going to be my civilization, the way I want it, and that's kind of to deal with that. That's kind of what, and I'm not going to spoil everything, but what Matt and I are working on with civilizational capital in this framework is so that I can present it to the world, or we can present it in a white paper and go here. You want Ancapistan? Go for it, dude. You want your Odin world? Great. You want whatever you want. I don't know. Maybe it'll work out. Sure. Here's a blueprint. You go do it now. And the reason why I'm going to open source it to a certain degree, with a few little things we'll keep to ourselves, but the reason why I'll open source it with confidence is that I'm very confident that 99% of the people, won't do it, and those who try will fail spectacularly because they don't get it. They're just going to look at the mechanics and go, "Oh, I can make GDP go up." It's like, yeah, GDP go up. Right, good. You go occupy yourself over here with that, while we go over here and go build something that's might stand for 1,000 years. So that while all this stuff's playing out and I'll be long gone, but my kids can inherit this and push it forward, hopefully teaching them enough to inherit it and keep it and maintain it and be good shepherds. Yeah, that's how we win. We win not in our lifetime necessarily. We win because we're thinking not in a 5-year or 10-year or 20-year cycle. I'm thinking 1,000-year cycle. So that's my game plan. There's my 4D fucking chess.
Speaking of
and you come stop me, right? Because your thing is, I'll keep talking and you keep thinking I'm an idiot, and I'm like, good, yep, yeah. I'll be as abrasive as I want to, because I understand that you're not getting it, and I can explain it to you with fucking crayons, man. You know, the recent one, we're just going to ban something. It's like, okay, great. How? You tell me how we are going to do that. Exactly. Ban TikTok. Fantastic. I'm on board. Let's do it. How are we going to do it? Oh, crickets. Great. So shut up. Like, away from me. If you don't have a game plan, if it's just like, well, we'll get the government to do it. Oh, so your plan is to get the government to do it. Great. Okay, well, then what government are you dealing with? The current one? Okay, how are you going to get these fuckers to do something? I'm open to suggestions.
Oh, well, we just bribe them. That's how we get them to do anything.
Yeah, we can buy them. Okay, well then how do we have the money to buy them? No, then we need the money to buy them. How are we doing that? Like, and then what? I can't stress it enough. I'm not a proceduralist. I'm a conceptualist, but I understand that procedures do exist and I respect them. Like I realize it's a drop-off point for me, and I'm trying to correct for it, because it's like you can't just speak these things into creation. What are you doing?
It turns out that Pete was when Pete coined the term "living in Ancapistan" in your head, he wasn't just talking about ANCAPs.
Right.
We live in a world. You got to live in the world that we're actually in. And speaking of making money, Armchair Contrarian here says the entrepreneur is in the front line. Providing value to your local community is a real way to begin to get involved with the solution. Taking personal risk to provide that value shows real commitment. Profit is simply validation from the community that you're valued. This is going to be a big focus on the show going forward. This is a big key part of the King Pill Discord server. One of the things we did is we just created a bunch of different channels in here that are dedicated specifically to people who want to improve themselves, people who recognize the only way out of this for us. I mean, I don't give a shit about a way out for America or the West or even Texas. I care about a way out for my friends, my family, my immediate circle. If we can figure that out, then we can figure out how to scale it. But the first step is figure out how to provide a way forward, how to provide a way out for our people. So one of the biggest ways to do that is by making sure that you aren't a piece of shit. You have to be able to provide value yourself. So we've got channels there. We've got one on parenting, one on finance, one on entrepreneurship, one on homesteading, coding, and then one on entrepreneurship that we called Grifting 101. We're poking fun at the idea that people say, someone who's trying to make money, oh, he's a grifter. He's, someone who's providing some kind of value and asking for pay in return for, oh, he's a grifter.
Damn straight.
Hell yeah, I'm a grifter. Because this is what I'm talking about here.
Because I like to eat.
Yeah, right.
I like to eat and, be able to. Oh, you like the show? Great. Yeah, this shit costs money, right?
And a hell of a lot of time.
Right. I will say that there's a different way to accomplish some of the same things, because I'm not an entrepreneur by nature, right? Like I'm a fairly risk averse person. Okay. But the second way that you can accomplish some of the same things you're talking about, Matt, is you volunteer with the power players that are in your area, and you become a valuable member to them. And it's important to realize that for the people that are in power, they actually don't care whether or not you're competent. They can teach you to be competent if you're above room temperature IQ. Okay, they can teach that.
Useful.
They care if you're loyal. They care if you're loyal, because if you're loyal, you'll become useful, right? And I can teach almost anyone to do anything. I can't teach people loyalty. And so if I'm loyal to the people that have power, which means they also have money, then they will find a place for me. And so I get opportunities presented to me. And sometimes I'm not able to follow through on it. And sometimes they're not able to follow through on making me money through it. But if I just keep doing it, something will happen. Today I got a. Today I got a.
Let me just jump in here for 1 second,
Yeah.
Josh. Just want to, yes, you reclaim your sovereignty when you realize your free will. You can choose. We're not telling you if Peter Thiel shows up tomorrow and says, "Hey Jay, do you want to work with me?" I get to choose. I'm going to say yes, but maybe.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to ask how much money. I'm just going to assume more than nothing. So, but anyways, glory holes in my future. But yeah, just but you can still exercise a choice. You don't have to. We're not telling you to do. We're simply saying you want to at least have the choice. If you're saying automatically, I don't want to have the choice. Okay, well then, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, Josh.
No, yeah, you're fine. It's just, I know that there are, entrepreneurism is scary, right? Like that's being a pioneer. That's being a settler in an undeveloped world. It's very scary. I get that, right? And it's not, I think there are methodologies you can do it that are fit for everybody, But regardless, there is another path, which is just to become incredibly valuable to people that have power and money. And then you can get a piece of that. That's a method too. And if you are a valuable member of your community and you're valuable to people that have power and wealth, they will give you pieces of that for your loyalty to handle things that they can't do. I mean, Matt, you own a business. How much you will, assuming that your business is profitable enough, how much are you willing to pay for an employee that will do the things you want them to do that you don't want to do? A pretty good sum.
Yeah. Yep.
And the more complicated it is, and the more that loyalty is necessary, the more you're willing to pay.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the. So I'm partial to the perspective that that everyone is an entrepreneur. That entrepreneurship is actually not something restricted to a specific class of people, but everyone is actually an entrepreneur in one sense or another. It's just that most people they only through their firm only serves a single client. So if you have a job, you work for that job, you get a paycheck, you're an entrepreneur, you're just an entrepreneur with one client, which means all of you are controlled by that client more than you're the subservient one in that relationship. So this is a separate kind of conversation, but there's ways that you can now, using various types of technology, and particularly by beginning to develop a network and refining your own particular skill set, you can actually productize a lot of your services. You can productize your knowledge, you can productize your activities, and you can begin to sell it to multiple different clients. This wasn't possible for most people in the past because without the internet, without the ability, without global communication networks, without computers, all this sort of thing, you weren't able to you worked for the employer in town, and everyone's got the same number of hours in the day, and so if you're trading money for time, if you're trading time for money, you only have so much time. So the only thing you can do is increase the value that you can provide in that time. But if you can move on to a separate axis where you're able to provide value to more people in the same amount of time, then you can begin to diversify your revenue streams personally. But also what you're doing is you're diversifying your network. You're expanding your network, which means you're making yourself more anti-fragile. you're giving yourself the ability to sustain rises and falls much better, which allows you to then begin thinking more long term. You start developing a longer time horizon, which then begins feeding back in to the original process. So you can create a positive feedback loop with this. But most people get hung up on the prospect of getting started on something like that. Oh, I don't know what they get imposter syndrome. I don't know how I would do it. I don't know anybody or whatever. And what I'm trying to say is there are, my microphone's falling here. There are, it's getting easier and easier to do this sort of thing.
And the
I think it's
competition has never
necessary.
been weaker.
Yes, the competition is getting worse and worse. It's getting easier and easier to do this sort of thing. And I think this is part of going back to what Armchair Contrarian said. This is having this mindset where your job, that you see your job as serving your community first and foremost, then by demonstrating that's a form of loyalty. Like if you're serving your community, you are expressing loyalty to your community, which then is paid back to you in social capital. It might be paid back to you in financial capital as well, but the more important part of that is the social capital.
I think you just got paid in some financial capital, sir.
I sure did. Wow. Okay, real quick, before we get to that super chat, I forgot that super chat back here. Jonathan Hemingway, he said $4.99 US dollars. He said, what you're describing is precisely why I believe that secession is a bad idea. Unifying America keeps foreign interests at bay. This is an interesting thought that I hadn't actually really considered before, which is that by, how would you say this? So something occurred to me when I was listening to Curtis Yarvin talking to Charlie Kirk, where they were kind of talking past each other, where Charlie kept saying, oh, well, I don't know if we're, ready to throw out the Constitution. And Yarvin was like, no, I'm not saying throw out the Constitution. I'm saying that the Constitution is a flexible enough document that everything that I'm describing can be accomplished within the purview of the Constitution. You don't have to throw out the Constitution to save the Constitution. You can actually use the Constitution to save the Constitution. In the same sense here, it's kind of rearranged my thinking a little bit as to the point that Jonathan's making here, that if your goal is to preserve your own sovereignty or to maximize your own ability to influence the outcomes of yourself and your people, then the whole states' rights thing actually becomes kind of an own goal. Being able to actually lean into making America a sovereign entity, establishing America as a sovereign entity, actually may serve the interests of individual residents of individual states more than trying to separate from it. This is a purely pragmatic case.
I mean,
the idea of staying united as a single unity, as a single polity.
I think if you change the relationship of the Fed to the patch, to use Yarvin's patchwork kind of thing, you can still have a Fed. You can still have the emperor. You can still have the office of the emperor. But the office of the emperor should be more or less in a civilization. The whole key of it is that everyone is working for the civilization. The civilization is working for them. It's a self-reflective model. So the differences in opinions or, culture or, I like sweet tea, I like whatever. It's like this novel shit. It doesn't matter. It's just flavor text. Because the overall arcing civilization is working for the people, and they realize that, and they give up that part of their sovereignty to the civilization because the civilization is working for them, right? That's what you'd have to substantiate for that to work. So I don't know if that's possible. I think it is, but whatever. Let's say it is. Well, then you can still have the Fed, but the Fed's relationship to the states or to the patches will change and become much more relaxed and porous and much more of a relationship rather than a top-down mechanism, which is what has become. That's the problem. If the incoming regime wants to keep that apparatus of like top-down kind of structure, then over a long enough time frame it won't work.
Right, and I think that's already beginning to devolve because, well, there's lots of reasons, right? But the most immediate one that we have record of right now is just that Texas said no, and it's starting to do its own thing. And to be fair, this has been going on for a while. You know, we've got weed legalization, we've got heavy drug legalization in Portland. Like we've had the teasings of federalism that's been going on in many different ways, and a lot of it was started with blue states. Funnily enough, and so you're beginning to see the decentralization in specific ways that are effective for blue or for red. And I think you're just going to continue to see that grow and grow, because anytime that somebody strips authority from the sovereign and the sovereign doesn't stop them, then the next step is to strip more authority from the sovereign, because there's power and money to be had. And if they're not going to stop you, why would you stop? Why do you steal money from the banks? Because that's where the money is.
Speaking of money, shout out to Youth in Asia, the $100 super chat. Man, I feel like I should do something more than just read it, but I'm guessing you guys probably don't want to see me get naked on the screen, so I don't know.
In USD too. Like if it was
right.
Australian, it wouldn't be that impressive.
Right.
Like, oh, great, thanks for the $10, but.
Thank you, my friend. Said just started following you and Jason. I came for the PayPal Mafia and stayed for all the interesting rants. Keep it up, fellas. Well, that's I think that's the way it's supposed to work. We're we hook you in with the clickbait, but then we keep you for the rants. Speaking of rants, there is something epic that's been going on in here, and I've been trying to follow the walls of text coming through here from King Salmonfish, and it seems really interesting, but I have absolutely no idea what he's saying. This is if you're watching this later on, if you're not in the live chat, you haven't seen the things he's been saying. Go back through and the live chat replay will be on. I know as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go back through and try to read it to understand what he's saying, because it seems very interesting to me. But this seems like some high IQ stuff that I can't track.
Yeah, Pete put something in the friend or fed DMs group DM about linking to this one thing. The initial blurb was really interesting, and then I got into the paper. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I feel stupid now. I'm reading words. I can read them. I understand the meaning of the words, but put together, I feel like a toddler now. Thanks, Pete.
He says, I'm the apotheosis of schizomimetics, avant-garde artist, credentials for crazy, but I'm just insanely smart.
This feels very Zoomer.
I don't know. It's I had a thought one time while I was on some mushrooms. The thought occurred to me, and it's stuck with me ever since, that the line between absolute genius and complete insanity is very, very blurry. And it really just comes down to the ability to communicate. Because the crazy geniuses, either they have someone who is able to interpret for them. In our case, like I interpret for Josiah whenever Josiah says anything. Nobody can understand him. So I have to relay his genius onto people. But if you're a crazy genius, you probably don't speak the language of the common people. So they're just going to assume you're some kind of wizard. Unless you have a patron who is willing to translate for you or is willing to endorse you to everyone else. Is actually, no. He's not a lunatic. He's actually brilliant. But it really just comes down to social consensus.
Matt doesn't have to translate for me in the same way, but he does have to tell everyone he's not okay. Yeah, he's not a total prick. He's just grumpy. That's all.
So speaking of which, we were talking about entrepreneurship earlier, and you're talking about wizards now. Let me tell you, and I don't know how to quite get it right, but you guys can understand the thought I'm having, right?
Well, hang on.
You can. I'm a retarded mechanic, dude. Like, I believe in you. Sufficiently advanced science is indistinguishable from magic. Okay? And so what young men need to be doing right now, especially our young autist men, right? What they need to be doing right now is becoming Merlin. Okay? Because engineering, mathematics, electricity, applied physics, diesel mechanic, plumber, all of these things are already almost effectively magic. Your average person has no concept of how electricity works. And I can explain it to your average person because I'm retarded enough to dumb it down to that level. But even then, even knowing how something works, they don't want to know how it works. And so if you spend the time now while you're young to learn these skill sets, you can become Merlin. And once you become Merlin, regardless of whether you're advising Arthur or not, you have however much power you want to build, right? Become Merlin. Learn trades, learn skills, learn the hard things now while you're younger than me, and then you can just print money because other people aren't willing to do the work to learn.
What's crazy, the last patchwork what we did with Matt and I did, we started off talking about Bucky's and Bombardier, and saying how Bombardier went from this massive global aerospace transportation company and is now like decreased itself down to a private jet company, which by itself is fine, but like you don't go from here to here and go, we're winning. It's like, no, you're losing. Boeing now is going through a systematic failure because of interest rates. They've had to adjust their retirement packages, and a lot of their senior engineers who are kind of getting close to retirement age aren't quite there yet, but they're taking early retirement because they did the math. They're like, oh wait, this is going to cost me years out of my retirement if I don't cash out now. So they're all retiring. So Boeing's lost is set to lose like a third or some disastrous number of their senior engineer teams in a business that heavily relies on engineers. Like, it's not the stewardesses that are going to run. Like, where do you promote from? What? Like Muck on who puts the rivets into the no? Like, it's
well, and that's even those guys who can get the certifications, right? They can graduate from a Bai University and everything else, but they don't think about things the way that we do. They don't problem solve.
It takes time. It's also experiences takes time. There's education give you a leg up on certain things, right? You can advance your experience level from 0 to, let's say, 1 or 2. But you can't say that someone who's been an aerospace engineer for 25, 30 years is replaceable by someone who's been doing it for 5 years. It just isn't. And you don't understand this until you're really into your mid 40s and you've worked in something for a long time. And then you start something new and you go, oh shit, I fucking suck. And it sucks sucking. Like, I'm so bad at this compared to someone who's been doing this for instead of who's, I've been doing this one career path. I'll give you an example from my own life. Restaurant guy for 25 years, really, really good at restaurants, going back to it now, actually. Shifted careers for a little bit doing maintenance work. I sucked at it. And even when I got pretty good at it, I still sucked at it. Because the guy who'd been doing it for 25 years was way better than me. And I will never catch up to that. I don't have enough time left in my life to apply myself. Even if I applied myself diligently to it, I'm still going to suck at it comparatively. It's just an experience gap that you can't fill any other way other than bring people up and give them experience. This is the sucking sound. Right? This is the planes falling from the sky thing.
Well,
short term, we're in a bad spot.
Midterm, it's going to be beneficial for young men because we're going to come back to a place where businesses are willing and owners and whatnot are going to be willing to invest in people who are loyal and in people who at least have the skill sets that show that you're competent. 100%. But that's going to be much more for people that are 20. I'm 40, right? Like, you're not retraining me to do stuff like that. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm doing. You'd find a 20-year-old and you need to invest 5 or 10 years in him so that he can replace the guy who's been there for 30 years. Because 5 or 10 years of training of real good discipline on the job, right seat ride where that guy is walking next to the guy that's been there for 30 years, you can get him 90% of the way there, maybe 80%. but that's enough. That's enough to be able to replace him.
All right, gents, I'm running out of steam.
Fair enough.
It's been almost 5 hours of live streaming here.
I know how it feels. I did this last
Yeah, you did.
Friday, and I felt bad with Lou because by the end of it, I'm like, I don't know if I can form sentences anymore. After that David one too, I was like, fuck, shit, I gotta do another one of these.
Right. Yes,
I'm
the
pretty much
Chipotle
wasted.
calls. I have just for you, euthanasia. Little Chipotle.
He's using his grifting bucks.
That's right.
See, if he wouldn't have donated in USD, I would have assumed he was in Canada with a name like euthanasia.
I see what you're doing there.
Mm.
Thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. Do me a favor, like the stream, subscribe to the channel.
Love the stream.
Share this episode.
Adore the stream.
Yes.
Make love to it.
Make the stream your own. Become one with it. No, Josh, stop it.
No.
I'm
See,
going to
always too
drop
far.
you off
Just
the screen.
But I'm wearing my shirt this time. What do you want from me?
One last call, linktree.com/kingpilled. You'll find a link to join the Kingpilled Discord server there. It is in the time that I last was in there. There is new messages in literally every channel. The activity has skyrocketed. Really love the group of people we have there. We'd love to have you if you want to be a part of a group of people who are positive, optimistic, focused on the right things, and building a strong little culture together, out of which will come some very interesting projects that you guys will learn about throughout the rest of this year as we start getting into those. For now, this has been a good stream. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Josh, for showing up.
always a pleasure.
And on Wednesday afternoon, let me get you guys the time real quick. On Wednesday afternoon, I will be going on Orrin McIntyre, 2 p.m. Central Time. I'll be going and talking PayPal Mafia and such things with Orrin McIntyre. Should be another great conversation. Until then, you guys can catch me in the Kingpilled Discord or on Twitter at RealKingpilled. Next episode we do, hopefully Cooper will be back, and you guys can make fun of him or insult him or do whatever it is you do with him. Until then, take care, guys.